What is up, everyone? My name is Jonathan, and today we are not doing a tutorial. You heard me right. We're not doing a tutorial. I see every day on Facebook groups and forums, what do I need for a computer? What is most important? How little of a computer can you get by with for Lightroom, for Photoshop, for whatever? So today we're going to not only look at how fast your computer needs to be, but where to check on your computer to see how fast your computer is. So let's get started. So first things first, obviously, we just do like what most people should do, is just look up Photoshop system requirements. And it will bring you, one of the links will bring you to this page. So at a minimum, they say 8 gigs of RAM. What is recommended is 16 gigs of RAM. Get 16 gigs of RAM, because if you ever want to use a Lightroom, which says the exact same thing as far as what they recommend and what is the minimum that's required, you should have 16. If you're ever going to have, because you're going to right click on a photo eventually and say, I would like to edit this in Photoshop. Odds are you're not going to close Lightroom and then edit in Photoshop. So you're going to need quite a bit to have these both open at the same time and for it to run smoothly. Not only that, this says you want to have Intel. One of these said, maybe it was, and I swear one of these said you wanted to have an Intel 7th gen processor or more recent or sooner or whatever. Super strange, whatever. So you want to have a pretty recent processor. For Photoshop and Lightroom, they are getting better at utilizing your graphics card. It does say, minimum, you do need a graphics card to run Lightroom and Photoshop efficiently. The better, faster the better, bigger the better. That's just the way this works. However, that is not the most important thing. If you're going to spend more money on a processor, if you're doing Photoshop and Lightroom, then that's where I would spend more money. I would also, if you're not going to buy a good hard drive, right here where it says hard disk, even they say a fast internal SSD for app installation. You want the program to be running off of a solid state drive. You do not want the program to be running off of a disk drive. That is going to be slow. Same thing for Lightroom. Although it doesn't say they recommend a solid state drive, you want a solid state drive. Why you would not want a solid state drive, I don't know. That should be part of the recommendations. Now, if you want to use Adobe Premiere, which is their video editing software, they recommend the Intel 7th gen or newer processor or AMD equivalent. So yeah, I would definitely have a very recent version of whatever processor you pick, at least 16 gigs of RAM. And then this is 32 gigs or more if you're going to be ever editing in 4K, which you probably will. I would say 4K is the equivalent to 1080 with a lot of text layers and graphics. And once you color grade your footage, all of that stuff, you're well past what you need to edit just regular old 4K with nothing. So once you start adding all that stuff, this is where you also want a way better graphics card. So you definitely don't want to skimp on a lot of stuff if you're going to be editing video, to be honest. So how do I find out? Where do I check on my computer? So you just click on your, usually there's a photo folder down here. Go to your File Explorer. This will show you what you have plugged into your computer as far as devices and hard drives. So for me, I have quite a few hard drives plugged in. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 of them. Apparently that's necessary. Don't judge me. And this is actually 2. This is 2 4 terabyte hard drives that are set up so they're mirrored. This is just my general file storage. This is my operating system disk. So this is a NVMe drive. So this is where I have my operating system. And then this is also where I have all of my programs. So this is the fastest drive that I have on my computer. This is where I want my programs to be running from. And then I have just another, this is a disk drive. This just has files on it. This is a solid state drive. This has all of the catalogs for Lightroom on it. It also has the cache folders for Photoshop and Premiere and Illustrator, etc. These I said were hard disk drives. These are just general file storage. And then these are a couple other, this is an external USB drive. And then these are 2 other SSD drives for current projects and etc. I think this is actually a thumb drive. This is a thumb drive, yeah. So right click on my PC, go to your properties. This tells you what processor you have. You might have to look this up. If it isn't Intel, it will say Intel like 7th gen, 8th gen, 9th gen, and then which one it is, like 9700 or 8500. I'm not super familiar with Intel, but I have a AMD Ryzen 7 2700X. This is an 8-core processor with 16 threads. The base clock speed is 3.7 gigahertz. I have 64 gigs of RAM because it was $120 more for another, I think it was only $150 more for another set of 32 gig sticks, or 2 more 16 gig sticks. So more is better in this instance. But this does not tell you what graphics card you have. So you go to your device manager, and that opened way over here. And now this, you want to go down to your display adapters, and this tells you what graphics card you have. This does not tell you how many gigs it is or anything else, but this gives you something to look up. So Radeon RX 580. So go to the old search, Radeon RX 580. There you go. So this gives me everything I need to know about my Radeon RX 580. Pick a link. All of these are going to have your basic information, but just skimming through some of these really fast. It's an 8 gig card, so that's important. You want at least a 4 gig card. At least a 4 gig card. You want, at a minimum, to me, the minimum should be 32 gigs of RAM, just personally. You want to have at least 2, well, you can get away with 1 solid state drive if you have an external hard drive. You want at least 3 SSDs or the equivalent. 1 for your operating system and software, 1 for your files, and 1 for all of your cache file locations, because the bigger your projects get, the more you can only transfer so much data so fast from each drive. So if you have all of your files on 1 hard drive, it's running your operating system, the software, and pulling all of the files and using all of the cache previews and all that stuff from 1 folder, 1 file essentially. So it can only transfer so much stuff so fast. So you definitely want to have more hard drives. The more hard drives you can have to split this up, the better, because your operating system takes so much constant data transfer speeds. So it takes up that much room. And then you have your program that you're running, and then you have 2 programs that you're running. So now you have even less room for you to pull your files from. So it really smooths out some of those moments where you're working on bigger projects and you have bigger file sizes. It really smooths stuff out if you can split some of that up. So that's why you saw I have so many things, so many hard drives for everything to be kind of split up. So at least 16 gigs. I'll say that. At least 16. You need 32. You should have no less than 16. You need 32. At a minimum, 4 gigs graphics card. At a minimum. 6 would be better. 8 would be great. Obviously, more than that is exceptional. At least 2 solid state hard drives. At least 2. To me, at least 2 solid state hard drives. So hopefully this helps somebody. Hopefully now you're like, oh, that's where you look that up. And hopefully this is of benefit to you. If it was, give this video a like. Don't forget to subscribe. We will see you in the next one.